From the moment Karenjit Kaur could observe the world around her, she wasn't loud. She wasn't the kind of child who demanded attention or filled the room with noise. Her nature was more subtle, more internal, a quiet storm of curiosity and creativity wrapped in a shell of shyness. In a home where traditions echoed through sacred prayers and Punjabi conversations, she would often sit quietly in the corners, absorbing everything with wide, observant eyes. Even at family gatherings, while other children ran wild, Karenjit lingered near her parents or sat beside a window tracing shapes in the condensation with her finger, lost in thought. She wasn't afraid of people, just cautious, perhaps too aware of the weight her words might carry. Her shyness wasn't social fear, but a preference for intimacy, for authenticity. She spoke when it mattered, when something touched her, and when she did, her voice was thoughtful, sometimes surprising in its maturity. This inward personality gave her a rich inner world. She would often spend hours drawing, not the typical stick figures, but elaborate sketches filled with imagination. Faces, animals, story scenes, the page was her stage. Her mother encouraged it, keeping a drawer filled with sketch pads and colored pencils just for her. When asked what she was drawing, Karenjit rarely explained. It wasn't because she didn't know, but because it felt personal, like opening a part of herself too early. Her curiosity wasn't limited to the arts. She questioned everything. Why do we pray like this? What is outside Canada? Why do boys and girls get treated differently? Her parents answered as best they could, but sometimes her questions were met with a universal parental pause, that moment where culture and innocence collide, and there's no easy response. Books became her second home. She was captivated by stories of faraway places, strong women, and secret worlds. She didn't just read the words. She lived them. She imagined herself as a heroine in magical kingdoms, as a protector of truth, as someone who could shape reality through will and belief. Art and fantasy became her refuge in a world that often felt confusing or contradictory. At school, she was never the center of attention. She wasn't the most popular, but she wasn't invisible either. Teachers often describe her as kind, sensitive, and intensely focused. She was a student who sat in the back, but always turned in work that made people pause. Not because it was flashy, but because it was real. Her shyness didn't mean she lacked ambition. Inside her small frame burned a quiet fire, the desire to express, to be seen for who she truly was, not for how others expected her to be. This duality, shy yet expressive, quiet yet bold, would follow her into adolescence, into her teenage conflicts, and eventually into the radical choices that would define her public identity. But those early years were foundational. They were the roots of a tree that would grow in unexpected directions. Her artistic side flourished in moments others missed. When she was alone with her cat, gently humming Bollywood songs. When she painted her nails with trembling cares of practicing for adulthood. Or when she stood in front of the mirror, trying on her mother's jewelry with wide-eyed wonder, imagining who she might one day become. In many ways, her artistic soul was a rebellion against invisibility. Though she didn't speak loudly, her art did. Though she rarely challenged authority outright, her sketchbooks were filled with women in armor, girls with wings, faces turned toward the sky. She longed to be more, not necessarily famous, not necessarily rich, just free. Free to be all the things that didn't fit into one label. The little girl who prayed with her grandmother's rosary like Sikh mala also watched Madonna on TV and wondered what it meant to be powerful. These contradictions weren't a problem for her. They were possibilities. She was, even then, a hybrid of worlds. As she entered her preteen years, her internal life began spilling out in subtle ways. She started experimenting with makeup, not to impress, but to explore. Color on her eyelids, glitter on her cheeks. These were acts of discovery, not vanity. She began keeping journals, where her thoughts flowed freely, about her family, her dreams, her secret fears. She wrote poems, sometimes sad, sometimes hopeful, often with a theme of transformation. She rarely shared them. They were for her, a map of emotions no one else was allowed to read. She was shy, yes, but beneath the surface was a girl becoming, a quiet artist sketching the shape of her future self, one page at a time.